my whole entire life is over. From this point on, I will be in a jail cell probably for the next quarter of my life.
It's another week and another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I am your host, Ryan Deemer. And today we've got a young man. He's based out of Georgia. He's inspired me. We've only talked for a few minutes before we got started, and I cut it off because I didn't want to ruin any surprises for you guys too. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys. His name is TJ Poole. He owns a land company called Limitless Land Management. He's based out of Hiram, Georgia, and he's already looking to expand into another state. So without any further ado, TJ, welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, man? How's your day?
It's going fantastic, man. Thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem. It was my pleasure, brother.
Yeah. So right out of the gates, you're 20 years old.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been doing this?
Well, it's funny. I've only actually been doing this 2 years. My dad, he's always been in the dump trucking and things like that. So I've been like here and there. I've raced motocross a good portion of my life. So, I mean, I've seen, dirt work and things like that. But me, I've really only been in this for like about 2 going maybe on 3 years. So
we're 2 years going on 3 years. You've already got 4 full-time employees, a part-time employee, and you're currently looking to expand into South Carolina in addition to your branch that you have in Georgia.
Yeah. A lot of people say, you don't want to move too fast, but the things are is, if I can do that there and be comfortable all the way out there, why can't I move out here? And, I've got somebody out here, which is my cousin, who's a great person like me. He wants to get to it. And if he's going to hold his own out here and do them things to where I can take care of, the Georgia branch and then come back and forth and be able to grow both of them at the same time, I mean, why not go for it? You only live once and you can only be young once.
Well, I was going to say, I have 2 pieces of advice for you that suited me well when I was young, because I got into the game at a pretty young age too, owning my own business. But one, you're young, man. So it's the perfect time to go do something like this, because if it does fail, it's just a minor setback in the grand scheme of life. It's not like you're 60 years old and got to reinvent yourself again. You're like, what was I thinking?
Exactly.
So do it. You're young. And then number 2, if you're going to fail fast. Go try it. If it doesn't work, get out, regroup, start over, because nothing worse than sinking money into something over and over and over and over again.
And the biggest portion is the good thing about me is the way I explain it to other people is I don't want to be 30, 40 years old, have a kid, have a wife, have a house payment, all these crazy things behind me. And, trying to start up businesses in other places when, one portion is going to be already hit. And then I feel comfortable and I'm too scared to move out to other places because what happens if this fails? No money here. At this point, I'm just letting it go and letting God take over at this point and see where it takes me,
Amen, man. Amen. So you've got 4 full-time employees and a part-timer. How are they in correlation to your age?
So it's funny, like a lot of the people that actually work for me, which everybody always says, never hire your friends. But where I'm from, you kind of get 2 options. You either get to pick people who are wanting way more than what you should pay them, or you get, the users that are trying to just get their money for, their habits. And, I kind of looked at that as, well, I don't want to go out on a wing and go and pay somebody way more than I need to be when I could sit there and me be doing a lot of the things and teaching somebody else along the way. And I don't want to be giving somebody money for their habits, another thing. So I hired a lot of my friends throughout the first portion of my business. The first year, I had probably maybe like 10 or 15 of my friends going through, which are no longer here, of course. And then one of my buddies, Trevor Kinsey, his dad owns a painting company, which they're really great people as well. They do a lot of stuff in Hiram, Georgia, and do really great work. He basically called me in February of this year, and basically told me, he was kind of fed up with it. He didn't want to paint anymore. He previously got into a really bad dirt bike accident that almost left him paralyzed. So he said basically climbing up ladders every day was just not his cup of tea anymore. So he was begging me to give him a shot, and it was one of those things where I knew that I had a lot on my plate if I brought him in. Because, he did have a house, he has a significant other that he has to provide for. And I was like, it's one of those things where what could go wrong? It's either it's going to turn out to be something amazing or it'll fall down just like the other ones. And surprisingly, he's now my main foreman because he gets things done a lot more than, I expected. I mean, he does absolutely any and everything I ask for and more. So he takes care of a lot of those things. But yeah, basically a lot of my friends were not the biggest option until like the ones that really started hitting in and wanting to learn this industry and wanting to get into it, started connecting with me and basically giving me a shot.
But as a whole, your entire crew is pretty young, like yourself, in the early 20s.
100%. That's like I said, basically my only friend group at this point.
How do you like? I think a lot of company owners probably have this same process or thought, same viewpoint you do. Like, you're doing something new, you've invested in this equipment. There's always somebody or a friend of yours like, hey man, let me come work with you.
Yes.
So, but you hiring numerous friends and going through that process early on, did you create like a structure? So like when you did bring your buddy in, you can say, listen, there's got to be some professional lines that we draw.
Oh, 100%. Like at least everybody now, because my worst enemy was being too lenient. Like that was myself, basically. My worst enemy was myself. I was too lenient, let a lot of things slide I shouldn't. I felt like I was a little bit too nice. And that was one thing that was holding me back. Even if they are friends, I really had to learn myself and teach myself that just because they're my friends doesn't mean that they have to be a friend all the time. They've got to learn when they get there and they clock in, I'm no longer your friend, I'm your boss. From the time we start until the time we go home. I mean, the second that clock turns off at the end of the day, we're back to goofing off, being best friends again. But from that 7 to 5 or that 8 to 6, we're no longer friends at that point.
How did you do that? Like, it's easy to say we're not friends from this point, but like, how did you get your team to buy into that also?
If you want the truth, just excuse my language, but being an asshole about it straight up.
That's why we do the podcast, man, because we can get away with it.
Exactly. So and just being like that and just being very like straight up forward. Like, look, we're not doing these funny games anymore. Like I'm trying to get my business where I want to be. And if it's either y'all get with it or you don't, y'all go find something else, because this is not a how would I word it? This is not a school. This is not a schoolhouse. I'm not. Y'all can learn here all you want, but at the end of the day, this is your job. So you really need to learn it and get your head onto it if you're going to stay
proficient, get moving. Yeah, I hear a lot of guys, they either do it like, because you said that you went through 10 or 15 guys at the beginning, you're hiring your friends. I find that when you take that hard edge approach of like, this is the way, like from this hour to this hour, we don't fuck around, word is roll and it's work. You burn through the guys who are like, wait, I thought it was going to be fun working with you.
Exactly.
Right. And then I find guys like when they get to the point where they get some good guys like yourself, where you almost have to make like a mental transition and like have them get buy-in in the company, not you.
Exactly. Like, and that's the biggest thing. It's for me, it's more of the ones who came in at first where, oh, my buddy owns a business. It'll be a little bit more laid back. I just kind of make my paycheck. And once they got in, because when we first started, we really only did sod. So they kind of realized like, this sucks. Like this absolutely sucks.
And that job's no joke.
Oh no. Being out there in the baking sun of Georgia, in the middle of summer, laying down pallets of sod. You get the wrong pallet, it's absolutely stinking. Some guys are just not cut out for that. And, like I said, I kind of just weeded out the ones who really weren't worth it at that point and brought in a lot of people that were, a lot more worth it, basically.
Yeah, I get you. So I can't tell you the number of business owners that I've talked to over the last 3, 4, 5 years that come from some sort of a motocross background. What the
it's
hell
all
is
in the
it?
dirt.
What
world.
is it with you guys and excavation, man? Like what's the gap? What bridges you two to get with those two together?
It's like, for me, the reason I got into it is, for one, it's just soothing, man. Being in that cab out on a piece of land that there's nothing holding you back. It's just, here's this, I need all this trees, debris, blah, 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 gone. Man, being out there is just a whole nother feeling, and it kind of gives me that relief a dirt bike gives me. It's like it's a stress reliever. You're taking out your anger on everything else. And it's just a piece. And it's kind of like something that a dirt bike gives me in a way. And that's why I personally like it. And, Trevor says basically the same thing. It just gives him a sense of relief while he's out there. It's a whole different feeling.
That's the first time I've heard that angle of it, or the relief, but it makes complete sense to me. Makes complete sense. So 2 years ago, you're starting this thing. What made you take the leap from what you were doing to starting the business?
To initially start this?
Yep.
Well, I mean, if we're being honest on this podcast, the real thing is because I got arrested when I was 16 years old. It set me back really bad. I accidentally Um, I caught like 7 felonies hanging around the wrong crowd that were super violent, almost got life in prison for it. And I was absolutely just down, man. Didn't have a job. Nobody would hire me. I just didn't have anything to do. I literally just sat in my house all the time. I had an ankle monitor, couldn't do anything. So the first thing that clicked in my mind is I'm going to start a business. So tried the whole pressure washing thing. That went absolutely nowhere. Tried the lawn maintenance. I absolutely hated that because, that's what I did in the past when I was 14, 15, hated it. I just wanted to be in a piece of equipment. So first thing I did was I started looking around. Sod wasn't too big from where we were at. There was a few companies doing it. But I just started posting random ads, just taking things off of Facebook and basically putting it on there. Hey, we install sod. Anybody want to, give us a shot? We started building that up. And I started realizing, okay, well, we need a piece of equipment to do this. It's not just, a tiller, take a wheelbarrow from back here to back here. We can use the skid steers to get the pallets quicker, yada, yada, yada. So then I started renting. And the first actual dirt job that I got screwed out of all of my money. It was with a rental skid steer with a rental brush hog from 2 different companies. I went and did the whole entire job. Of course, I didn't get a contract with him. He comes outside, everything's done, and he's like, oh, you didn't do this whole other side over here. I'm just like, that wasn't in our agreement. And he was like, oh, well, we didn't have a contract, so I'd get to it. And I was like, yeah, that's a portion that sucks. It's like first good dirt grading kind of job, and it just absolutely went to the floor. So yeah.
What did that? I want to stay on that topic real quick. So what did that do? Like, did you get frustrated and be like, man, maybe I should just stay in the side alley, or did you make a plan to be like, no, that ain't gonna happen to me again, but I'm gonna keep moving forward in the dirt world?
To be completely honest, when I left that job, I said, screw dirt work. I'm absolutely done. I said, I'm staying with sod. But then when I got home and thought about it, it was just like, I'm going to have these lessons. It's the first one that got thrown at me. Don't ever trust word of mouth. Because at first even with my sod, it's a big thing that I did. So I trust word of mouth way too much. Didn't really ever set up contracts, do things like that. It was just I just tried to live off a handshake. And, I kind of realized that this world's not built off a handshake anymore. Like, there's a lot of people trying to get something for nothing. And it happens more often than people try. I mean, I just got screwed out of $18,000 on a development job because he felt like that what we did wasn't equivalent to our invoice when he agreed to the invoice of daily rate. So it happens,
It does. And you're right, man. It was just not the same world like it was even 20 years ago, but more like 30, 40 years ago. Our parents and grandparents taught us, you're a man of your word, you shake hands, you hold, that's a bond.
Exactly. And that's something you should live by,
Yeah,
and I try to keep it
anymore
as possible.
Yeah. So you get your first job, get snookered out of all your profits because you had to do extra work.
Yep. I wasn't even able to do it. It was a whole nother half an acre of brush hogging, and it was 8:00 at night by the time I got done. So I was like, there's no way, there's no money in me. I would have to, put out $300 extra just to get the equipment back out here tomorrow. Yeah. Hey, I ain't doing that, man. And he was just like, well, go ahead and walk, pack your stuff up and get off my property.
Nice. So what's the next job? Like when do you take your next dirt job?
So I think the next dirt job I got was just a minor grading job. When I was like 15 years old, I worked for a guy named Michael Hendricks. I hate to put him out there. He's an absolutely horrible guy. Everybody's still posting about him right now that things are going wrong with their properties. But he gave me a shot because I talked him into doing sod because it was one of those things like it was really hitting off. It was working for me. And I was like, you should try sod. Well, I got a Bobcat. Well, I got a Bobcat. You can go ahead and just hire me to do your jobs. So he hit me up one day. I think it was about 2-3 weeks after I got skiffed out of that money. And he was like, yo, I'll give you $100 an hour. Come out here and run your Bobcat and do your things like that, which at this point, it was kind of one of those things where I was telling him, yo, yeah, I got a Bobcat. I was still renting at the time. Didn't want to tell him the truth on that one. But he was like, all right, yeah, just go ahead, bring it out here. So I think I made like maybe $300 off that job after paying my rental fees and everything like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of getting the hang of this. I can kind of do this more often. I like sitting in the cab, having the AC while everybody else is just loading me up, taking it where it needs to go. It's like, this kind of works out. So I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks after that.
Gotcha. And when did you buy your first piece of equipment?
I think it was March or April of 2020. two, I believe. Yeah. So we were doing sod. We started working every single day. Somehow that absolutely just went off the rankers. I was getting 15, 14 messages on Facebook Marketplace a day, doing all these quotes, getting all these jobs. And I went to my dad and I was like, I ain't got credit yet. Would you mind helping me get a skid steer? And he was like, no, get out of my face with that. Because, with any parent, if you're trying to start a business, first thing you do is not walk up with them, ask them if they can help you buy a $70,000 piece of equipment. So he was like, no, that's not happening, because, he's seen my other businesses that I tried and I just kind of gave up on them. But I was like, all right, well, I'm going to make this a point. So I saved up money. I saved up a good enough money where I went to him and I was like, look, we got a lot of jobs. I'm spending a lot in rental costs. Is there anything you can do for me? And he was still like, no, like I'm not taking that big of a risk on it. And I believe, like I said, March or April, I was at a job one day and he called me and he's like, yo, where are you at? And I was like, oh, I'm in Woodstock right now. We're installing 4 pallets of sod. And I'll never forget this day. He was like, oh, well, I'm at Bobcat. Bring your money. And I was like, you're joking right now. And he was like, no, at this point, I see that you're actually doing what you want to do, and you better not give this up, but you make the payments and we'll work it out. And you missed your first payment and then it goes back. And I was like, all right, well, let's get to it. We got a skid steer now. So yeah, like I said, it was definitely a high end moment for me. Definitely brought a lot of joy, and those rental costs are getting ridiculous these days.
Yeah. If you rent more than 3, 4, 5 times a month, it's
basically the equivalent of buying the machine.
Yeah. So that was just a year and 4 months ago.
Yeah. Right around a year. Yeah. A year and a half ago, we've had it.
So you went from having nothing a year and a half ago, buying a skid steer, and now you obviously have enough equipment to keep 5 people busy.
Yeah. So we got a HX 160, a 2023 Hyundai. We have a 2006 953 track loader. Of course, we got the skid steer. And then we also use national equipment dealers a lot for extra rentals, like forestry mulchers, things like that. I didn't believe it either. Like, just kind of looking back, it's kind of crazy how I got here. Because, over 3 years ago, I was sitting in a house with an ankle monitor trying to figure out what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then now I'm sitting here with, quarter or over $1 million worth of equipment. And it's like, man, it's just kind of hard to believe at this point.
So TJ, do you think you would have had the determination to continue and be successful in this business without the experience of having to sit at home with that ankle monitor?
Honestly, no, because the way that I was headed before, I was either going to end up dead or in prison for something really serious. And luckily, what I did get arrested for, it was not really even my fault. I was literally a party to a crime. And unfortunately, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a situation that should have been passed up. But like I said, I'm really lucky to even be out right now. Just the way things went down, it was bad on everybody. I got me and then 4 other co-defendants. 2 of my buddies basically went in a house when we didn't. Well, we got invited to a house. My bad. It's kind of hard to talk about it sometimes.
We don't have to talk about it. I just want to know.
Oh, no, I would love to. Cause
if you want to, I'm up, but I don't. Yeah.
You can come from anything, and that's why I don't mind talking about it. It's just hard kind of reflecting sometimes, because I like to show people that, you can come from the bottom of, hell and come back up to the heavens if you try enough. That's the biggest thing. If you've got to want it, you've got to try, and you've got to be determined to get back into that position,
I find that the most successful business owners I've ever met, it may not have been an ankle monitor, but it was something that knocked them really, really, really low.
Exactly. And, that was the portion that knocked me low, because I was 16-year-old with armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, home invasion, gang affiliation, felony eluded, destruction of property over $500. And I'm sitting there in a jail cell going, my whole entire life is over. From this point on, there's nothing else that I can do. I will be in a jail cell probably for the next quarter of my life. And, of course, luckily, months down the road, my family was able to get the courts to talk it down into getting me on bond and doing things like that. I got out, and it was the same exact feeling. It was like, dude, I can't do anything. Tried to go get a job. They wouldn't hire me. The first thing they asked me is like, what's going on with your record? And, at the time it was hard because there was a lot of, trauma behind that. You're 16 years old going through that. And then everybody you're talking to is telling you you're going to prison. And, it's one of those situations where I was like, I've got to do something that's going to be positive for me. It's like, I got to do something for myself. At this point, I'm done relying on other people to give me a shot. I'm going to give myself a shot and build my own, world, because at that point I can go talk to a customer and put my boots on and pants on, and that hides that side of me. But, if I'm working outside and, it's by a pool, like a lifeguard or something like that, where I've got to wear shorts all day, everybody's going to be staring. It's not going to be a good situation. People are going to ask questions. And it's one of those things, I don't want to be asked about that. I want to forget that, indefinitely, unless it's something positive. Like I said, I love talking about it sometimes because it can bring people out of a hole that they're stuck in.
And then I think, did your past life try to pull you back in once that monitor got off, or were you kind of free to make your own choices?
Man, to be completely honest with you, probably about 2 years in, the old life was still trying to hang out and, do this and let's get drunk. And it's like, dude, I really can't. And I suffered real bad addiction on weed, man. I could not get off that stuff to save my life. But yeah, once I got the ankle monitor off, it was kind of just it was an open world. I literally quit doing everything, hanging out with everybody. And it was head on business, because at this point I already had my business started up. And, once I really started my business is when I completely cut everybody off.
Yeah. And did you have to look at them and say, listen, man, I'm done. Like, we had a good run.
No, it wasn't even that. They didn't hear another word from me. And, a lot of people say, that's kind of an asshole thing to do. But in my world, like, dude, if I screw up one time, like, I'm on strict guidelines. If I screw up, I don't get 1 year. I don't get 5 years. I get 60. So if I screw up, I will be gone for basically the rest of my life. So I'm not trying to mess anything up,
Yeah.
I've got to really watch my hang around. It's cool because the funny thing is all of my friends are my employees at this point. It's like, yeah, we don't get to hang out after work because who wants to hang out with their boss? They want their check signed. But at the same time, it's like, I have people that I can talk to, that I can see every day if I have something going on. And I have other people that a few of my friends that own businesses, they don't got a lot of time, but, if I call them, they know it's for something important or if it's about money, one or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that I have those connections, because before, the connections that I had just didn't really give a crap unless it was benefiting them. You know what I mean?
Yep. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I guarantee you there's somebody out there listening to this right now that's being inspired by that story and looking at their situation, wherever they're at on the ladder. It's not a competition to see who was lower.
Who had the worst life growing up.
Yeah. But you know what? They're feeling low in their personal life right now. And to hear somebody say, listen, I was facing incarceration, sitting at home, nothing but my thoughts. And I still found a way to overcome that and believe in myself, invest in myself, and become successful. I think that's a very powerful story. And I think too many people are afraid to share the lows. Like, we all want to be on a pedestal all the time. And it's not real life.
Exactly.
It's not real life. So thank you very much for doing that.
No problem, man. Like I said, I just want people to understand it doesn't matter where you're at in life. You can come out of any situation and come out on top, personally.
Yeah. Do you still struggle with like wanting to behave that old way anymore, or is it completely out of your system?
It's kind of funny because I feel like I'm too old for my age now. Like, it's like, I don't want to party. I don't want to go get drunk. I don't want to go have a smoke sesh. Like, it's like, I want to grow my business and leave everybody else in the dust at this point.
Yeah. You look at 20-year-olds now and you're like, God, these kids.
Yeah. It's like, dude, y'all are a joke. Y'all are some bozos, man. It's like, y'all got to get a grip, and it's crazy because a lot of people told me that I wouldn't go anywhere. And now they're looking at me, like I said, quarter or more $1 million worth of equipment. And it's like, I'm still trying to figure out how I got here,
Yeah. And, let's put it in perspective. $250,000 of equipment for an excavation company is not an enormous amount of money.
No, but
$250,000 of equipment for anyone that's 20 years old is ridiculous. Like,
exactly.
You're very far ahead of the curve. And if you stay focused, stay structured, like, the sky's the limit. And you're going to get to a point where you have to choose what success is.
Exactly. And it's funny because I feel like I already have success in a way, because for me, I've always learned that success doesn't mean $100 million in your bank account. For me, success is waking up every day on time, being happy, and just living without depression, man. Because I went through that for a long time. And that was a good portion of my life. And I finally reached a point where I'm happy. I'm at peace. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing it around people that I really enjoy, and I'm having fun. That's where everybody gets it mixed up. I'm young. I'm just trying to have fun, clean fun at this point. But right. I'm just trying to have fun while I'm young, because I'm never going to be 20 years old again with a business like this. So why not try to make the best memories out of it? Why not try to do the best that I can, make all the memories, and just try to thrive, man.
Yeah. And what I meant by that, when you get to choose success, like I know guys that own a skid steer and a Mini X, they work all the work themselves. They have one part-timer that helps out from time to time, and it's exactly where they want to be.
Exactly.
That's success. That's success. Like that's his level to where he wants to be. But like, if you stay on the path you're on, you're gonna have to choose. Like, do I want to
stay where I'm at,
hire in smarter people than me to manage multiple locations and logistics and maintenance, or am I cool with just one or two locations? And there's no wrong answer, right? It's like what you want.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's kind of like, where do you see yourself? And it's kind of crazy that you put it like that, because at this point, it's like, I don't really know, because I leave my blueprints open. A very wise person, John Watkins, always told me, you want to keep your blueprints open, because if you try to set something up and it becomes bigger, you don't know what's going to happen. He owned a really big erosion company out in Georgia, Watkins Erosion, and that grew to millions, and they got every single contract in Georgia, basically. But his big fallout, because he did a podcast, I listened to that, and then I spoke to him about it after the hand, because he goes to our church. And he said his biggest problem was he had a blueprint that he made in his mind. He put it on paper, and it went absolutely to the moon past his blueprints, and he didn't know what he was doing at that point. He said that, he just kind of got into a depression mode because he couldn't turn to anybody and talk to it, which I deal with the same problem. Why would somebody my age want to talk to me doing better than them, So it's kind of like, who do you hard to talk to, Yeah, he basically said that, keep your blueprints open, because you can never know where you end up. You can end up with, these $10 million contracts where you're doing subdivisions, doing everything for them. And if you only put it to where, I'm doing 2 home builds a week, that's going to leave you, kind of in a shock, and you're not really going to know what you want to do. So, yeah, I kind of just leave my blueprints open. If whatever happens. I'm just going to keep on pushing.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. That's great advice for people out there listening. Like, don't be so rigid in your plan. I'm a big believer that you got to look at your 3 to 5 year vision. And like, maybe your vision right now for 3 years is the 2 million mark. And maybe in 6 months from now, you're gonna be like, man, we already hit that number. Big deal. You just build a new 3-year vision.
Exactly.
Like, it's always lucid, right? It's always fluid. You can always change it. But without having any vision at all of your goal, where you want to get to, you're just going to be spinning your wheels in the mud, doing the same thing you're doing today in 6 more months.
Exactly. Like, the biggest thing for me, I don't know if you know Brent Scarborough. You ever heard of him?
I know the name, I think. Yeah.
He owns a really big excavation company. They do basically what I want to do, which is like turnkey company. They do land clearance, site development, utilities. I mean, they basically do everything. I'm not too keen in on everything, but my goal is to get bigger than him at this point, which a lot of people say, that's a $100 million company. There ain't no way. Like, in my mind, that's where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to be as big as them, basically competing on the same bids that they're competing on.
Yeah.
And of course.
Yeah, dude. And it sounds hokey, but I will tell you, man, keep visualizing that, keep believing it, and don't let anyone around you. Like, when they start pushing, when they start saying you can't do that, it's out of envy and fear.
Exactly.
So, but if you stop seeing that, then you won't reach it. Like, you've got to continually make sure you see yourself bidding those projects.
Exactly. And it's like, it's one of those things that a lot of people I've seen, what they struggle with is trying to go so much lower than these other people just to like get the bid. Like, the biggest thing for me when I first started was having the fear to walk away from a job, and I see that a lot more nowadays. It's everybody always just tries to knock their price so much just to get a bid. And it's like, dude, there's somebody out there that is going to be worth your time. It's not going to knock you down thousands of dollars just so you can get the job. I mean, there's some people out there that just don't care. They just want to make the money.
Yeah.
But like, for me, I know it. I know what my company can produce. So I'm not about to drop my prices $3,000-$4,000 just because you want to save a buck or two. It's either you're going to pay for something really good and it's going to have an amazing outcome, or you can go gamble with somebody else who's going to do it for cheaper,
Yeah. There's two lessons. There's 2 things I always talk about with guys when we get in this conversation we're having right now. One, if you start competing on price, you can only go to 0.
Yeah,
that's exactly. It. Like, you can only go to 0. You can't go any lower. And then 2, like, you're right. Don't discount it. Instead of discounting it, increase the amount of value that you provide that customer.
Exactly.
And if they don't see the value in what you're offering them, that's okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people just don't understand. You come, you pull up in your truck, they see you, and then you talk about it. But what they don't see is the new equipment that's sitting back there. They don't see the insurance costs. They don't see the wear and tear on the machines. They don't see that, your guys have to drive all the way to that job site, wherever may that be. You have to pay for them. You have to pay for all these extra stuff. You got diesel costs. I mean,
and TJ, I'll be honest with you, they don't care about that.
they don't. They just want that job done.
No, but you need to change. Like we always talk about changing our mindsets to provide a customer experience. And it's like Walt Disney World. It's 10 times the price of Six Flags or Dollywood or wherever else, and people flock to it.
Exactly.
Because of the customer experience.
100%.
Right. So when you guarantee on time and your extra cleanup that you do and your professional walkthroughs and the estimate, all that stuff provides value that the weekend warrior can't provide. And people will pay for peace of mind and professionalism.
Exactly. They pay a premium for that. 100%. I agree on that. 100%.
Yeah. But if you just change that mindset to like a customer experience and customer satisfaction, I always say, like, we're not a service business. Like, this industry is not a service industry. You're a solution industry. Like, somebody has a problem,
you go out
providing a solution to fix it. It's like, I've never seen a painter walk up to me and say, yo, man, I've got the newest, latest and greatest paintbrush. I can make your wall look great. But I can tell you how many times people are like, dude, I got a skid steer. I can do that. And I'm like, awesome. Like, it's a tool.
Exactly.
I want to know about the solution and like how are you going to do it, and what's the guarantee when it's done, and what time frame can I expect it to be done in? It was like nothing worse than starting a project and a week later going, dude, you going back to finish that? I got a mud pit in my backyard. Wait, you bringing that equipment back over here? And those are the things, like, you provide that value to the customers, and you find a way to differentiate yourself in value from your competitors, and sky's the limit.
100%, man. That you hit the money on that one. I'm definitely going to take that and run with it. I've never really heard it in that aspect.
Yeah, it's like we always think about, we provide a service. Like, we're an excavation service industry. Well, you're not. Somebody has a problem. You're the solution. You're the solution.
The solution to their problems.
Yeah. And people pay a lot of money for a solution.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me, like with that development company that kind of skiffed me out of my money, he doesn't really understand. He tries to, how do I put it without kind of sounding like I'm down on this man? He's been in business since 2019, and he just has the biggest line problem. He tries to tell people that he's built over 300 homes, which 2019 to 2023, first 2 years small business. I don't see how you build more than 300 homes when you just got into building homes like a year and a half ago. So it's one of those things where getting in with him and seeing what he did, and he's like, oh, well, this person's paying this, and he said that he would give me a bid for this price and that price. And it's like, well, he's not going out there using 3D, and he's not out there shooting lasers. He's going out there to move his dirt and get out. I said, you're getting all this extra stuff. We're clearing your land. We're clearing brush piles. We're grading everything off for this price. You're getting all this and our expertise on this. So why not just take a risk on it? You know what I'm saying? Of course, he did take the risk on it, and he didn't pay his bill. So, which was a funny one on my head. Yeah.
So you mentioned back when you were doing the sod that, like, you were getting 15, 20 messages, a day or a week for sod installation?
It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you still use Facebook for your excavation business, or have you outgrown it based on the projects that you're currently doing?
So basically, we still do use it because I do still like dealing with customers. A lot of people, they get a little bit bigger. They just want to deal with contractors, things like that. But I kind of like having that extra revenue. And on top of that, I just kind of like the customer experience. If I'm able to get my name out through word of mouth, where somebody's hitting me up saying, hey, John told me that you did an awesome job on his land cleared. I wanted you to do, what I'm going to do. So he already knows basically that what my pricing is, how I work, because of course he's going to talk to his buddy about it. So if his buddy tells him that, hey, I'm pretty high dollar, when he calls me, he knows that I'm not going to be cheap. So that's the best thing for me is when it comes to Facebook, I do them. I try to give them, a little bit of slack. I do everything. And anybody who calls me from there, they already know how we work. We already know how we set up. And that's how it's worked with a lot of my customers through Facebook. It became word of mouth more often. When I use them.
Gotcha. So, like, the mix of your business currently, how much like percentage wise? Like how much business are you doing as a subcontractor for either development or larger excavation companies, and how much are you doing for residential or single end user?
I would say currently it's about 50-50 if you want me to be completely honest with you. Like if I put it on a scale, it would definitely be 50-50. You know, I got a few good home builders that I work with. We do grading and we do the land clearing for them. But on the other side, you know, like I said, I still keep my customer base rolling off of Facebook Market. And, you know, it's funny because a lot of the things that hit me are people who come out to do these jobs and they just walk off of them. And it's like, so I'm sitting here left with a customer who's already been out of shape. But then the good thing is, you know, I can bring their happiness back because once we leave, they see what a real company's about. And they're like, okay, well, I was on my toes at first, but now that I see all this equipment sitting here, I know that, you know, things are about to actually start happening.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I just actually got another one out in Douglasville. Some guy went out there and cleared an acre and a half with what's that? It's like a Hyundai 35i or like some super small 7,000 pound excavator and a super old John Deere skid steer and just left brush piles everywhere. Was supposed to chip it. Was supposed to do all this stuff. Graded a pad that was like bowl shape. It wasn't even parred, man. It was really, really bad. Left all the stumps, I guess, and they felled all the trees instead of pushing them over with the skid steer or the excavator. I mean, it was horrendous, dude. I mean, there's stuff everywhere, but luckily we got that job. I'm gonna bring out the 160, and I projected like 2 days, and he's like, 2 days? This guy was here for like 2 weeks, and I was like, he ain't using the right equipment then.
Yeah, it's like digging a grave with a spoon.
Exactly.
So Facebook, you said Facebook Marketplace is what you're using to attract these people. How do you use Marketplace selling a service? Because everyone I know gets banned.
Okay, so actually, let me bring out my phone for this because we got a lot of funny ones. You basically have to word it as like a 9-year-old. If you want me to be completely honest with you, if you want to beat the system on that, you got to word it like a 9-year-old would word it. So we have let's see, sod layers for sale. We got excavation time. Lot clearing for sale. Like you basically just got to put everything for sale at the end of it. So it's not a service, you know what I mean? We have forestry mulcher sales. Mulcher works with an X instead of working, you know, things like that. Just basically word it like stupid, you know, it doesn't ever get flags for me. And that's the best way that I can explain it. Like you literally just have to word it like stupid.
Yeah.
Mispronounce a word, maybe a few capitals, lower cases, use some numbers in there.
That's actually genius. Like
yeah.
the only workaround that I had found over the years was to like sell the material.
Exactly.
You know, or like people that did land clearing with a mulching head. I'm like, offer free mulch.
Exactly.
And then in the description, tell them it's because you're going to come in and mulch the trees and brush, but you get free mulch.
The biggest thing is they look at comment like your description too. So I figured out that they look at how it's worded in your description when you first post it, and then. And I guess in the info on the bottom where you can like basically list what it is. A lot of people go in there and they're like, you know, we're this much now, or we priced by the job, yada, yada, yada. Literally all I have is just PM for more info. And it swings by and they just hit me up off the messenger app, and then they can't flag it by that point. We're already talking, already got their number, everything.
Yeah. How many tire kickers do you get through that? Quite a bit.
I mean, yes, but luckily they don't get past the first bit of the message stage. So basically how I do it is I kind of have like a fill out for myself. So I'll ask them, you know, what's your location? What are you exactly looking to do? You know, what's your time frame? Have you looked up in your area how much this is going to cost? Yada, yada, yada. And the ones who actually, you know, give a crap are going to, you know, comply with what I'm saying. They're going to tell me what they know. The other ones are just going to kind of view it and be like, it's this location. When can you come out? And it's like, I'm just going to come out to a random location. You know, you gotta let me fill you out a little bit, because when I first started this, man, not all 15 of those messages were people ready to go. You know, there was probably about 6 or 7 that went with us. The other ones were just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll get back with you on that. You know, I got to talk to my wife. And that's another thing. For anybody out there listening, if somebody says they got to talk to their wife, it is not happening, man. They just go ahead and go find you another job to hop on. That's normally the biggest turn away for anything is, yeah, I got to go talk to my wife about it. Especially when it gets into the thousands.
Yeah. Along with Skid Steer Nation, we also do Groundbreaking Growth, which is like a basically a coaching program for excavation business owners.
Mhm.
And they hire us, specifically they hire me to work with them and kind of coach them and help them build the structure of their business and then refine processes, work through marketing, sales scripts, culture for growing employees. And literally today, both of my calls today, all we did was talk about pre-qualifying questions. Like the whole call was about pre-qualifying questions because number one, time is the most valuable asset you have. It's the same amount that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos has. So why would you waste it driving an hour and a half to look at a dead end job?
100%. And that's actually funny because I listened to that podcast, that previous one that you had, and I believe y'all brung that up too. Everybody gets the same 24 hours. You know, if you're taking an hour out of your day, say it's only 30 minutes away, that's still an hour out of your time, and that's hours that could spend somewhere else making more money. And
I mean, so like creating that list, like you talked about, you kind of like a checklist of 5 or 6 or 7 questions you ask before you even get moving into it. And I give these guys like a list of like 30 and say, hey, here's examples. They don't all work for your business, but go build your own list.
Exactly.
When you get off the phone with that person and you agree to drive to their property, you should know that they've got an idea of a budget range. You should know the details of it, any issues that were going to be there, if you're going to need to get any permitting for it. Like how soon they want it done, what their end goal is. Because sometimes the end goal isn't the project they're doing. Like if a guy wants a pad built for a barn, like you need to know that there's a barn going there and he doesn't want a flat spot in the yard. Like getting all that information up front before you invest the time in driving out there.
Exactly. And it's funny because a lot of people, man, they don't know what they want. Like, especially it's big when you go out to like pond builds. Dude, I cannot tell you how many times I went out to pond builds and people just don't know what they want. I ask them, what kind of shape, do you know how many pumps you're wanting? And half the time people don't even know you have to have a pump when you build a pond, to make sure that the oxygen is correct. And people don't understand. If you just go putting fish in basically a hole with water, they ain't gonna live for very long.
Yeah.
If that flips and that kills all the fish, they're gonna call me asking what's going on, what's happening to my fish. You did something wrong, and it's no, because you're skipping those steps basically to get everything correct. Like there's a lot that goes into pond builds, and just some people don't understand that. They don't do the research. They just say, "Oh, I got land, I want a pond." It's like, okay, well, what are you using it for?
And again, that's your job to provide that customer experience, that walkthrough process.
Exactly.
And like we've even seen, like I know it's kind of growing in popularity in like the home contractor industry, but like getting paid for consultations.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a problem at all, especially on larger scale projects, to do that same thing, because like to spend the time required to get the details,
go out there,
the education, all that, like with a virgin ground for a pond, like even if they don't hire you, they're going to be equipped with everything they need. And if you provide some handouts and list of questions and things that they would need, like there's a value to that.
Exactly. Especially when you have a good team behind you that's giving you a lot of good knowledge. Like, I got Mr. Nichols. His name is, I can't even remember his name. 1 second. He does a lot of work. I feel really bad now.
Is he local to your area, or do you meet him online?
Yeah, he does a lot of things for the state of the county of Dallas.
Okay.
Robert, there we go. No, he doesn't own his own company. He just worked for Dallas, and he did a lot of things with water, sewer, things like that. So I bring him out a lot of the times when I do these builds, and he works alongside of me, and he just gives them so much information because that was his life since he was 16. I believe he's like 25, 26 now, and that's all he's done is ponds, stormwater, things like that. So I bring him out. He's going top to bottom, telling them what they need, how many they need, how deep it's going to be, what liners they're going to be used. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, all right. Let's keep it going. And these customers are just learning all this extra stuff. And it's like, wow. Like, okay, well, I didn't know that I needed this and this and this and this and this. And I'm just sitting there kind of like, hey, we did this for free. It's one of those things where I feel like I should start charging at least something to especially go out to pond builds, because those are my number ones I hate.
And honestly, like you could, this is off the top of my head. We've had no time to discuss this in advance, but like you could say, yeah, I can come out and take a look at it, give you a quote, or you and I can spend 2 hours. We'll go over all the details of the pond, the way that where the riprap is, best place for the levee, ponds, liners, the A to Z's of the pond construction, but for that 2-hour consultation, there's a $400 charge.
Exactly.
So now you give them a choice. I'll give you a free estimate, or you can pay for my knowledge.
Exactly. A top tier, top to bottom, basically scale of it.
Because I think if you only, because that's the biggest thing for me is you hear all these guys like, oh, people think I'm an idiot. They think it's crazy that I charge for a consultation. I'm like, well, offer them a free one too.
Exactly.
Very limited.
An option of that.
Yeah. Here's the pond. Here's the steps. Here's the price, right? You got
100%.
And then just knock the price of the consultation off the build when they hire you.
Exactly. Basically give them that option. If you do go ahead and go off, this will be knocked off and you'll be reimbursed for what you've already put out.
Yeah. So we're doing that here locally with a septic company because they keep getting called out for inspections.
And it's only inspection.
I'm like, man, charge for that and then just take it off when they hire you to replace it.
Exactly. And that'll kind of give that customer, well, I've already got a little bit of money put into this company. Why not go with them?
And that's the human psychology behind it, TJ, is like you've already got him comfortable giving you money.
Exactly.
The dollar amounts are irrelevant. He already knows that you've paid you and he's gotten value out of what he paid you for. So now it's going to be easier for them to pay you for a larger ticket item.
That is smart. That is super smart.
Yeah.
Dang, I know Robert's going to listen to this and he's going to be like, dang, that dude didn't even remember my name.
He's going to be like, that's all right. I'm going to start getting $400 or $500 a pop now.
Oh, he's going to start charging me out the wahoo now. God, everybody just jokes around and calls him Mr. Nichols, man. But it's like, it's hard to remember people's names sometimes when you don't see them every single day. Like I said, I keep a short group, man. So it's hard to remember everybody's name.
Yeah. No, man, anytime you can get somebody to either say yes or give you money for something, all you're doing is building a trust and making the end result even easier. So that's like when we go through the sales process, like the estimate and going over it and the site walkthrough, like always ask for permission, always ask if they understand what you're talking about, because all you're doing is getting them to say, yes, you can tell me about your estimate. Yes, I understand that we're going to cut out that roadway. Yes.
Like I said, because a lot of people just don't. They just don't know. And that's the best thing to be able to get.
All I want to do is get that person to say yes to me 5, 6, 10 times. So when I say, here's the price, they say yes.
Exactly. Basically,
like it's like literally like psychology training. You're just training them to tell you yes.
100%.
Yeah. It sounds kind of like a shady back end deal, but.
In a way, yeah, but at the same time, it's not, because I mean, if you're providing them that good work and you're showing them that you're worth their time, why not turn you into a yes man?
Absolutely.
Especially somebody being able to turn to for any and everything,
Yeah. So let's say there's one guy listening to this podcast right now. He's extremely down on his luck. He's you, maybe not the same scenario, but he's sitting on his couch just at the bottom of the barrel. What do you tell him?
Get up and go do something. Figure out. Don't know what to do. Don't know everybody's situation or what they like to do, but just get up and do something. Like sitting on the couch ain't going to do anything for you.
Well, more along the lines of like getting into business, like getting that thing off the ground. Like what's your best advice to that guy?
You got to want it. Like that's literally how I put it to myself is you got to want it. Like if I want to go get work, I've got to want it. I've got to go out there, find it, go strive to be the best that I can personally be. And I've got to want it, because a lot of times it was like let's say with my grass cutting whole thing, I knew that I didn't want that. Like I knew that I didn't want that to be my life with the whole pressure washing thing. And I was like, yeah, I can make some money. It's not what I wanted. Like if you're gonna do something, you've got to want it, or you're not gonna like it. You're gonna hate it. You're never gonna want to do it, and you're gonna get burnt out. It's like a lot of people when they go get a job that they know that they're not gonna want to do. And then 5, 6 months down the road, they absolutely hate their job and they're griping every single day when they got to go up to work. Like with me, I don't do that anymore. I wake up, even though I'm the business owner, I wake up and I'm thankful that I get to go to work, because I remember there was times where I didn't have no work and I want this. So that's just the biggest thing that I could tell somebody is if you're going to start a business or do something, you've got to want it. You've got to get into something that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life, but not give up no matter what it is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because I remember there was like a 2-year period. I'm going to age myself because you were just getting out of diapers, but the 2008 recession hit and I owned bars and restaurants.
100%.
So our numbers were way down. The savings account was going in the wrong direction. And then it started to plateau out. We weren't losing money. We weren't making money. And it like literally felt every day like I was in prison because I couldn't quit because I owned the damn thing. And I hated going to work. So like it is like you better have a passion for what you do and you better really want it. Those two things.
Exactly.
If you have a passion and you want it, sky's the limit.
Exactly, because it doesn't come easy at all, especially for what we do. I mean, you would know just as much. I mean, this industry is cutthroat. I mean, it's to the core. You do one thing wrong and your name gets out there in the wrong way, you're done. I mean, like I said, with that guy that I worked for, few people started posting him on Facebook, and it was a downhill spiral from there. And then he's calling me asking about work, and it's like, dude, I know what you've been doing. I mean, he would do these scandals where he would get customers to give him a deposit up front for the sod. He wouldn't get it, and he would just go missing out of nowhere. And it's just like, once a few people understand what you're doing and it gets out there, nobody's gonna hire you again. Nobody's gonna try to take that risk. And man, I don't know where he's at today. I'm praying for him. He's trying to get me to do a few grading jobs in his backyard. It's like, man, I don't even know if I'm going to get paid. So go ahead and not do that.
Even worse than that is you don't want to be associated with his name.
Exactly. I mean, you get around the wrong people in this world and it'll definitely destroy you. And that's why, like with the home builder that I was working with, I ain't even going to say his name, but it was basically the one that's trying to be a developer. That's just one person that I'm not trying to do, because I remember it's about 6 months ago, man, he had a lot of bad reviews. And then out of nowhere, they're all gone off Facebook. They're off Google. And I talked to a guy named Reese Alley, and he's actually another person that went and interviewed him and tried to just pick his brain a little bit. And that's how I figured out about how much he really lied. I mean, he was telling this guy he had 50 employees, over $150,000 a month in payroll. He was building 9 developments, and it's like, dude, this is like the first development I'm on, and he can't even make his bill. Like, what is this guy talking about?
And like you talked about earlier, man, like all these experiences, whether you work with them or not, all they are is life lessons, and it's just making you a better business owner.
And it's one of those things. It's like I don't necessarily hate those times. Like, don't get me wrong, losing 18 grand to anybody, that's kind of a headache. But at the same time, I know that for one, I'm going to make it back, and for two, I'll be better prepared and watch who I work for. Look a little bit deeper into their background and look what they got going on, because, I mean, like I said, you can't go off word of mouth anymore, and handshakes just don't work either. And that's basically how that was built. I started doing small grading jobs with him, and then, he passed me along a little bit more. Then he gave me this out of the blue, and it's like, kind of felt like it was a setup, especially because I was that guy that he'd call if he wanted it done for cheap. You know what I'm saying? He would always haggle me about my price and be like, oh, can you do it for this? And he knew, like, there was a portion of my business, I believe it was like the first year, I was in a relationship with somebody. And like I put on my application, I'm not picking the wrong person for the journey. They absolutely hated what I do. I was always putting my time towards my business, doing this thing. So, I was kind of streaming away from it, but at the same time, I didn't have another job. So this is all I did. I had a skid steer payment. And this dude would barely let me scrape by with a few dollars. He would get me out there just enough to where he knew I was about to hate what I was about to get paid, but I'd still do it. And it was just one of those times where, I mean, I wasn't going to say no. I mean, it got a little bit slow, started getting into the winter time. And this person over here is telling me I need to quit and go find me another job because this ain't working. She can't do this. And I got him over here saying, oh, here's a few dollars if you come grade this off. And it's like, all right, we're going to continue with the business. Which luckily, I didn't quit. It's gotten me here. But, yeah, these days you really got to watch who you work for. Like you said, you got to watch who you're associated with, too, because that'll give you a bad name if you're around the bad crowd.
Absolutely, man. TJ, we can keep going. I mean, I try to keep these around an hour or so.
That's completely up to you. I love
this conversation, man. No, I feel like
I'm the type of person we could talk for hours, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Like it's pretty impressive what you're going through, man. So yeah, I think you hit a home run, man. Like, thank you for being so open and honest with your story, your past life, the lessons that past life and the beginning of owning a business starts. Like, it's not easy. It's not for everyone.
Well, yeah, it's more of a thing. Like, the main reason why I wanted to do this is because, like you said, you inspire other people. That's the main thing that I help other people get inspired by, is like with my story. I know we could sit here and talk about how good somebody grades all day, this, that, and the other, but the cold truth about it is people who start these businesses not always have, mama and daddy help them out from the get-go. There's an upbringing like with me, it's it was really, really hard because, like I said, I'm not even supposed to be sitting in the seat. I'm supposed to be sitting in a jail cell. And, God, thank him so much every single day that I'm not, because that would be absolutely boring. But it's just one of those things where I had to take that experience and put it into this and go, what are my options here? And I just looked at the light at the end of the road and I started chasing it, and it's bringing me here.
Yeah, God's got a different plan for you than with the path you were on, and
exactly. And it's one of those
things. He had to set you down for a little bit so you understood it too.
Oh, 100%. And it's like I said, I feel like I kind of needed it because the road that I was down, I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, horrible wrong crowd. And it's kind of crazy because I look back on it from then to now, and it's like, dang, I don't even know that kid anymore, man.
Feels like a lifetime ago, right? And it's only been
dude, it feels like a whole nother world, dude. Like, I look at pictures of myself now and pictures from then. It's like, that guy looks like a loser. And that's the cold truth about it, man. That kid was a loser. But yeah, I just like inspiring people with my story, because it is a crazy story. It's hella screwed up, and I'm here now. So what does that mean? You can't go do this because you're upset or you're sad or you feel like you can't do something. I felt the exact same way and had a lot on my plate, but I still said, I've got to do something. I can't sit here all day.
Yeah.
I've got to find a way for my life.
Yeah. Persistence and vision, man. They always pay off. Always pay off.
100%, man.
Well, man, thanks so much for taking time out of your day. Go get those crab legs. Enjoy the beach today.
We're about
in South Carolina. And for all you guys listening out there, if this is your first episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast and you really enjoyed it, there's a lot more interviews with other business owners just like TJ that you can go back and listen to. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can get notified when we release new episodes. And if the information you heard today resonated with you and you feel that it's going to make a difference in your business, but you still want to take it one step farther, go over to groundbreakinggrowth.com. You can see exactly what the program's all about. You can schedule a call to talk with me directly. It's my free consultation. We'll spend an hour talking about your business, about how we can help you. If we move forward, great. If not, I guarantee you will take away something from that phone call that will make you a better business owner. Groundbreakinggrowth.com. Until next week, we'll see you guys around. TJ, thank you so much for the interview today.
It was an absolute pleasure, man. You guys have a great rest of y'all's day.
All right, man.